And so, all right, today, thank you so much, everyone, again, for taking the time to join us this morning. Thank you again to all of our wonderful speakers for also making the time. Today, we will be going over the future of AI and customer-led growth. I wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items here. Same things, this webinar will be recorded and we will be sharing the recording after. If you have questions, please type them into the Q&A section. It'll help me track it easier as well instead of scrolling all the way through chat. And then Obsession, again, want to save the dates, and we are looking for some really great speakers. And so I'm going to also drop the link there if you are interested in speaking at Obsession. And then the last piece here is, again, reviewing the agenda of, I won't do the intro of the speakers just yet. I'll let Gal take that. But we're going to go over how AI is impacting the way we work today, the way we think, the way we invest in the different tools that we have, and how it's reshaping the future of customer-led growth. We also really want to talk about why Base acquired Laudable and Three Bears. And then we also want to just kind of give you guys examples of strategic AI functionality that can really help you stay competitive, that can really say, okay, great, there's all these great AI tools out there, but what can I really do to make it effective for me and my team here? And then, just additional tips for for everyone. And then we'll also leave some time for Q&A at the end. And so again, please put in your questions in the Q&A section so that I can help track and get the team to answer them. But yeah, I am now gonna throw it over to Gal, who's gonna share his screen next. But yeah, super excited for today.
Cool. So excited to see everybody here. Before I start sharing screen and whatnot, let's just do a round of introductions. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gal, CEO, co-founder at Base. Happy to talk about AI and how it's changing a lot in marketing, in our life, in customer marketing, and so on. And we'll try to touch a lot of those things today as well. She introduced herself, but let's go through, Angela, Dan, and Yonat.
Yeah, hi, I'm Angela Ferrante. I was the founder at Laudable before it joined forces with Base, and I'm now full-time at Zapier leading enterprise marketing.
Hi, I'm Yonat, the founder of Three Bears AI, and now leading data and AI for Base.
Hello, and I'm Dan Fennell. I'm Senior Director of Customer Product Marketing at ZoomInfo, and I am both a ZoomInfo customer, a Base customer as well as a Laudable customer, and so it's fun to be here.
Super, and yeah, excited to kick things off here. So I'll start a little bit with some, and I just came off SaaStr, which is kind of the biggest SaaS event, and now it's SaaS and AI. But I'll start off with some information that we're seeing in the last, months, days, and some feedback on where AI is taking us, because I do think it's going to be relevant to some of what we're kind of seeing. So this is Kieran Flanagan. He was actually the CMO at Zapier, Angela, and then he moved to HubSpot. And he's like, saying traditional marketing team is dead, right? Everything's changing, everything's breaking. Welcome to the age of generalists. A new marketing team will look very different. I'll walk you a little bit through that. And I think Kieran is a little bit, right wing, but, taking things to the extreme, which is, it's great because that's why he has 90,000 followers on LinkedIn and whatnot. But the guy is super smart, and we need to kind of at least take a few of his tips there. So we don't really know if, yes, teams are going to change, and it is a little bit, stressful. And frankly, nobody knows what AI would look like in 6 months or in a year or in 2 or 3 years, because each, you go to some companies who their adoption curve is now like where, oh, we're just starting to use ChatGPT. And then you go to others who, oh yeah, we've just, changed the entire team. So it's a little bit hard to say and predict, right? But I think there are some things that we can kind of think about that are more structured. So first of all, and I'll share some slides on that in the future a little bit later as well. But one of the things we see is definitely that there's going to be a lot of new mini tools. Like, how many little $20 widgets do you use for, hey, AI for video editing, AI for text editing, and AI for, of course, ChatGPT and 5 other ChatGPT likes, like Mistral and Anthropic and whatnot, and which model should I use, and so on. So there's going to be a lot of mini tools you're going to use. That's one thing. And on the flip side of it, I think for organizations, they're also going to look to consolidate. So Salesforce is a great example. Hey, if I can do everything with Salesforce, if I can have my CRM and my, and HubSpot is the same. And actually, Yamini, the CEO of HubSpot, was at SaaStr talking. But I mean, they're basically saying if HubSpot could be your customer success and your sales and your marketing, which is a trend that's been going on for years now with HubSpot, and Salesforce. But with AI, it's even more extreme. Like, we want AI across all those platforms, all those tools. So AI for Salesforce and for HubSpot is not an add-on. It's more of, it's going to be in every feature we have. Agents are going to run in everything that Salesforce does. Like, these companies are hoping to consolidate a lot of your work into their platforms as well. So I think those are two things we're going to see. We're going to see core platforms consolidate, and then we're going to see a lot of mini tools for different tasks. The other thing is, I'm sure you've been hearing this, but we're all asked to do more with less, right? More with less in the sense of, teams might be a little bit smaller, but you need to create much more. You need to be the Swiss Army knife where you're like, if we take it to our world, like advocacy, references, community, lifecycle, you have to do it all. Like, maybe that was 4 different people or 8 different people before, now it's maybe 2, or things like that. Or voice of customer, user generated content, surveys and feedback, campaigns. Again, maybe in the past that was 3 different people or 3 different tools. And again, now the expectation would be that much of these will merge into both tools and people. I think, just because you're not going to have so large teams to do all of that. The expectation, again, going to that generalist approach, one person does much more. And then the last thing, and this is his full post. And again, if anybody wants any of the things I'm going to share today, just email me later and I'll send you the links to all of this. But this is Kieran's post, if it's on LinkedIn. And this is what he's saying about the marketing teams, right? He's saying, like, marketing has product marketing, demand gen, content, and, maybe more. And this is where it's going. And again, he has a whole prediction here, but I do think some things are definitely true. For example, team sizes will be smaller. I mean, whether we like it or not, it's probably going to happen in some cases. If you're a developer, the same thing is going to happen. Like, if you use tools like Cursor and other tools for dev, I mean, this is probably going to mean that the team's not going to grow as much as you expected, or it's going to stay the same, but just do more of the same resources. So teams will stay the same or sometimes smaller. Some companies, of course, grow, and we need to expect that. Then the second thing is like the team consolidation. So is it going to go as extreme as he's saying that a lot of marketing is going to merge into just one team? Maybe. But we already see some consolidations of, let's call them by use case, right? So maybe customer and partner marketing together, or customer and content marketing together, right? Or customer and community marketing together. And again, those consolidations have been happening before, or starting a little to happen in the last 1 or 2 or 3 years, but I think it's just going to be even more expedited now. And I mean, the new org structures, I don't know. I'm sure it will change. I'm sure org structures will change. I think it's so hard to change org structures. Like in SaaStr, for example, people are talking about, hey, does it mean that there's a whole new go-to-market team? So sales, customer success, and marketing, are they all just one team now? And I mean, maybe we know how hard it is to create these new structures. We know it's not going to happen in a month or 6 months or a year. Will companies look differently in 2030? For sure. Also in 26 and in 27, but it's going to be gradual. I think more there's going to be that detrimental. Now, these guys think differently than me. This is a company called Artisan, and they have billboards everywhere. And, they use this like stop hiring humans as the Wi-Fi password in SaaStr. You can imagine that not everybody loves this, password or this sentence. Are they true? Are they not? Are they just being provocative so you buy their product or you learn more about them? Again, all of these, in their case, it's like an SDR, right? Or something like that, or a BDR AI and whatnot. Does it work at full extent? Not quite there yet. Will it work very well in a 6 months or 12 months or maybe 18 months? Probably it would work pretty awesome. Again, it works okay now for some companies using an AI BDR plus an a real BDR person is a great combination. And that's actually the perfect way to do it. Will it totally replace? In some cases it will. That's kind of what we're trying to say. If you look at support deflection already, for many companies, more than 30 to 40% of their support tickets are now deflected by chatbots. So, I mean, there's just going to be some things that will be solved with AI. But again, adoption takes time. So this is some examples. And this is a slide from Palo Alto Networks from SaaStr. This is actually from CMX, the community event, and from Circle. So I'll kind of share these different things. But so Circle looked specifically in the community space. How's the adoption like? And you can see on the one hand, only 24% are sure that they're going to embed AI in their, workflows and community, chat this year, right? But when you think about it a little bit deeper, 70% are basically saying it's probably or likely going to happen this year, which kind of means that next year, maybe 100% will be there. 30% are saying we're sure not going to do it this year. But that's the thing. I mean, everybody's embedding agents, bots, whatever, in there where they can, where they think relevant. Marketing is one of the early adopters, one of the biggest adopters, right? So, and again, sorry for the maybe not the best picture here, but you can see that on content and on automation, whether it's, using it for automating tasks, customer engagement, improve overall campaign effectiveness, 70% of the marketers are already using AI on their daily basis for that. And then 40% are kind of doing it for productivity. And the last thing here is, interesting. This is like, do you see AI as a tool or as a teammate, right? As one member of your team. And you can see that the people that use AI daily consider it to be a teammate much more than the people that potentially use it monthly, right? So the more we're going to use these tools, the more we're going to consider them as teammates. But, again, we're early days on the one hand, but we shouldn't think it's, but it's not that it's going to take now 5 years. Like, things are moving fast. And one of the last things I'll share, then I'll dive into what all this means to you, and then we can go into a discussion. But so this is from Megan, who's the CMO at Samsara. She was telling her team, and she was, she mentioned that publicly, basically that, if you're not utilizing AI, it will influence your performance evaluation. That's simple. She told her team, if I don't see you using AI, I'm gonna, it's gonna impact your evaluation. And you need to understand that for every AI tool, I'm sure many of you know it, there is or will be a way to measure the utilization. This is an example from code because it's very easy to measure. How much of our code have we deployed, right, through AI, through tools like Cursor or Gemini or whatever, but how much of the code was deployed and recommended by AI, right? So different companies are mentioning different numbers. Google was saying, initially that 30% of their code was, today implemented by AI. Now they're saying higher numbers. This is just an example, but these dashboards that tell us and tell our managers, this is the number, this is the impact of AI on our work, are going to be part of the metrics, part of the KPIs that we're all going to be measured by. Because in the management teams, the CEO, the CMO, when the CFO, whatever, when they talk internally, and again, not everybody's going to agree with everything I say. It's totally fine. But I'm kind of, from what I see, my kind of perspective is, they don't talk about, hey, should we call our advocacy program ambassadors or champions or, wave makers, or they don't care about the advocacy program name. They don't care if it's 150 advocates or 250 advocates, right? That doesn't hit them that much. What do they care about? This is what every CEO or CMO I talk to, it's like, how do I get my team to adopt more AI? Like, how do I measure their usage with AI? How do I show the impact on revenue, whether it's increased productivity like here or increased revenue with AI? Because this is also what they want to show their boards and their investors and whatnot. And then, and it's public companies and it's not public companies, it's across the board. How do you, AI, one of the things we're seeing is much easier switch between vendors, because people are, think about it. I don't know how many of you have done it, but, I used ChatGPT for this, and then it wasn't that great, so I just moved and used Anthropic for it, right? And, and then that wasn't great, so I used another model for it. So The ease of swapping, if you will, is even becoming more kind of profound for people. On the other hand, Git, Git, GitHub, who's the earliest AI for developers, the average amount of code that is deployed by GitHub is 35%. What does that tell us? On the one hand, it's not perfect. Developers are not putting in 100% of the recommendation by GitHub into their product. They're putting 35%, a third, right? So it's not perfect, but it's okay. It's okay for the AI tools not to be perfect and allow people to, save 30% of their time. Awesome, amazing. Nobody's expecting it to save 50% of my time or 70% of my time. Not yet. Maybe in 2 years, maybe in a year, but not now. So the idea here is that it's easy to move between tools if I think one has better functionality. On the other hand, the balancing is that nobody's expecting it to be perfect out of the gate. And if you're expecting everything that ChatGPT does for you, everything that you use in iTools to be perfect out of the gate, it's not. You have to work on it, and we'll show that. And everybody's expecting you to use your customers to tell your AI story, right? How not only launch, what they will expect from advocacy and reference and customer marketing programs is to help us get feedback. What do we need to do more in our product with AI? Help us also, tell the story of how they're using AI to generate more outcomes. Mark Benioff was on a podcast with Jason Lamkin, who's Mark Benioff is the CEO of Salesforce founder, and Jason is for SaaStr. And Mark is an amazing speaker, an amazing thinker, but every 5 minutes he was putting, and here's how our AI is doing impact for Singapore Airlines, and here's how our AI is doing impact for, so they want to show AI in how it impacts their customers. And you as customer marketers, advocacy managers probably need to help them tell that story and capture it. And yeah, then last point here before we kind of do some Q&A is this is from basically an event, RSA, it's the biggest cybersecurity event. Again, Bold Start VC, a VC in there. They were asking chief information security officer from big companies, Elastic, Cloudflare, Atlassian, like, how are you seeing this? And basically they're saying budget are still favoring consolidation except for AI, right? So we need to understand all of your managers, IT, all of your peers in IT departments, finance, of course, the CMO, the CEO, they're still thinking consolidation, right? These are the big companies in cyber, but it's across the board. But they're also thinking the only thing we're willing to try, not consolidate, do more of is AI. That's where you can find budget. And that budget many times sits with IT and not with your department, but still. Okay, so I think we can pause here and then we'll get back a little bit to some of the stuff that we want to talk about of how you could actually use it in your day-to-day, but we'll get back to this in a minute. So I guess before we dive in, again, just Angela, Dan, feel free to kind of chime in here, but as we think of the pace of changes in the AI world, and you see it in your organizations, Dan, you're in ZoomInfo, and you guys launched a Copilot and other AI elements. Angela Zapier is doing a lot there. What are you thinking? Like, I'm not going to ask the question of, is it replacing humans, but what can humans do to work with it better, adopt better, and so on, and what's really happening versus what's a lot of noise?
I'll go. Yeah, it's funny. It was interesting to see your notes because I think I'm already seeing organizations adapt and kind of test out restructure, knowing that they're able to get more scale and reach with AI. I think customer marketing specifically has always had kind of multiple homes, and so everybody's always looking for efficiencies. The thing that I'm seeing initially is and your slide was spot on, like 74% of people are using it for content marketing. And so I feel like the initial wave has been, let's just produce a crap ton more content and we're generating more content faster. But then the incremental pieces of those contents are falling on a little bit more deaf ears. And so I'm seeing more customers are using AI to suss out, summarize, and synthesize everything that we're generating. And so I think the push into more volume of content is going to start to ebb. And then people are going to become more efficient. What ZoomInfo is doing with Copilot, our go-to-market intelligence platform, is going to be all about how do we turn dragnet fishers into spear fishers. And so I feel like AI is doing the same thing here in an advocacy world where we're getting smarter to find who are the right people that we should engage, um, when we should engage them, and what do we want to say once we're there. Like that's where I feel like we're just going to become more efficient. So then the inefficiency in our current market is gonna be reduced, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's going to make us more effective in our roles.
Zilla, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, OpenAI shared that marketing and marketers are adopting AI faster than other sectors in the org, and I think this is one reason. But it's impacting everything. I think one thing that's really interesting is to look at how Sam Altman talks about the ways that younger generations are using ChatGPT, and that there's clear generational divides, and that for the youngest, it's an operating system, right? It's not a tool, it's an operating system for their life. And if you just think about that, pretty wild.
Yeah, I think I heard yesterday the Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box, and he was saying like people come into younger generations come into the organization. And again, there's going to be, more people finish college, come in and whatnot. And they're going to question everything we do. They're going to kind of say, like, he gave the example of, what do you mean creating an annual marketing plan takes you 2 weeks? Like, why don't you just ask ChatGPT to build your marketing plan and it's going to take you 2 hours? Like, why are we spending 2 weeks and 5 meetings? Like, they're not going to understand this mode of operation that we have. And, it's sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's going to clash. Sometimes, we'll figure it out. But I mean, a lot is definitely, for better, there's of course some anxiety around it, but definitely a lot is changing. I guess a question I have is, so what do you think, Angela, is AI is going to make like the biggest impact, for growth for companies from what you see both, in Zapier and kind of what you've been looking at? And when you think in the context of customer-led growth, of course.
Customer-led growth? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's three big categories that stand out to me, and it's all about removing bottlenecks. So the first category is unstructured data, right? It's finding critical insights about champions, about customer ROI, successes from the plethora of unstructured data. We have call recording, Salesforce notes, insert data here. The second category is automating entire workflows and processes that used to take a lot of time and a lot of manual steps. Time then is no longer a bottleneck on that front, right? And then the last category is around enablement, and both sales enablement, but broader organizational enablement is giving the right teams the right data, the right information, the right insights at the right time, and getting all of the great content that customer marketers, for example, are creating, getting that to use. So really removing yourself as a bottleneck from that information dissemination, and getting the right thing to the right person at the right time.
Right. And I guess for you both, Angela, and then like, how do you see, Dan, you mentioned the organization changes, but how do you think about like, what are leaders considering right now, short term versus long term? And I don't know if you can share anything from ZoomInfo specifically or Zapier specifically, but like, what do you think is happening there? Like I mentioned what I hear leaders talking about and thinking about, but what have you been seeing and thinking?
Yeah, for ZoomInfo, I feel like we've bet the whole company on the growth and evolution of AI. And so we're definitely leaning heavy into how do we use intelligence to help people go to market more efficiently. So I think that's ZoomInfo looks at this not as a threat. This is a huge opportunity because I think you can be so much more efficient. I think especially as a seller, if ZoomInfo sellers are our primary customers, and sellers today they don't necessarily know exactly who they should engage. And if we can help make them a little bit smarter, a little bit better at who they should engage using intelligence, then they're just going to be better and more effective at their job. And so does that mean we need less of them? I don't think so. I think there's just a huge market of people who are wanting products or wanting services, but we don't know how to get a hold of them. And so now this is going to help us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would add for us, it's like just generally, I hear a lot of CEOs talking about we need to accelerate org-wide AI adoption and having a lot of FOMO and just feeling the board pressure, right? It's become a board priority to do that. And so to actually do that, there's a lot involved. There's a lot of different pieces, from cultural change to having the right tools in place to having the legality and sort of like data controls in place. There's a lot of pieces. We actually just published a playbook talking about like the components of how Zapier is doing that, did do that, still definitely in progress. Because there's micro things. There's stuff like, okay, how do we switch from thinking about SEO to what they're calling GEO or AIO, right? Optimizing content on the web for LLMs and so forth. So there's a lot of different pieces. Hackathons have been a great method that Zapier has seen success with, that I know various companies are doing, to just encourage experimentation. Because one shift at an employee level that I'm sure we've all felt is that when you're trying a new tool, you're inherently bad at it to start, or you feel inefficient, there's some heat loss. And that, for many of us adults, is discouraging. It's like, no, I want to go to the things that I can do really quickly, that I have, I get fast validation on my effectiveness at. And it requires getting over that hump to really get to a point where the tools are improving, where you're improving and figuring out how to cobble things together and piece together workflows. So I think that's another really big piece, is encouraging and rewarding experimentation to the extent, or to the end of getting employees over that hump.
SEO versus GEO, or there's others named for it. There's actually a new survey from G2. I can actually share that. So again, in first of all, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. And if you want any of the links or things like that, again, just reach out to me, gal.biron@base.ai. Super simple. So, or to Chia, of course. So here's, actually, this is exactly what Angela was talking about. GEO or search or whatnot, and this one is from the G2 recent survey, and again, they have a full survey. You could look at their CMO posted on LinkedIn as well, Sydney Sloan. But what they went for a lot of things, but definitely the search is impactful. And first of all, I mean, super easy. Like when you go, this is my ChatGPT. I just get the extension, right? Like ChatGPT is literally trying to get inside your browser, inside your Chrome, to basically win over Google search, like in any aggressive way they can. It's not enough that you're going there, they're now going to come and be in your browser, but which again makes sense from Sam Altman's point. I get it. But what we kind of are seeing is the impact of that, right? So basically what G2 found is that Gen AI, chatbots are the first place, or the highest ranking place, that we search for vendors, right? And then we would go to G2 review sites, and again, this is by G2, so review sites, but yeah, and then basically we're going to go to the vendor site. So your website is third, and Google is somewhere in here, and other things, and your peer colleagues, like I would expect them to be higher, but they're lower. So a lot is changing, and again, some of it is generational change. Maybe younger buyers have different way of doing things than others. Some of it is, of course, just this whole, hey, if I can go to ChatGPT and ask him to, or again any other model, and ask them to help me understand which vendor should I look at, and it gives me a list of the 3 shortlist. I might not even look for anybody else. I'll take their three name shortlist, and then I'll go on and maybe go to review sites and do my continue my search and so on. So I mean, that's impactful. So how do we solve for that in the customer marketing realm? Actually, I think customer marketing becomes more valuable there, because, for example, and this is from Liz Adams. Again, you can follow her on LinkedIn. She also has a website, newsletter, and whatnot. But she has these frameworks and shows real amazing live examples of how to use AI. So again, this is an example framework where she's kind of telling the engine, understanding the market, driving key insights, hyper focus, but she wants him to, based on the reviews only, like I uploaded a file with 100, 1,000, whatever reviews of 2023 users from companies 50 to 1,000 employees. These are Asana daily, that have been using Asana for 6 months on a daily basis, right? So I mean, very specific information she's giving the model, but look at what she's asking. She's basically saying, help me better understand trends and insight from our customer voice, from our reviews through that. Create it step by step and so on. She's treating it as a team member. She's like giving very specific guidance and so on. But I'm trying to connect the dots between, yes, a lot is changing and a lot is impacting our work. But I do think customer marketing has potentially even a more central manner, because voice of customer authenticity is going to be even more important in an age of 1,000 new competitors and nobody knows what truth is, and is it a real or is it fake, is it AI or is it humans, and so on. And there are different frameworks for that. And again, this one is from Palo Alto Networks, this one is hers. But I mean, and I can share this, but just saying, like, as long as we as employees think how we adopt AI on a daily basis. So Palo Alto has this, like, they found a nice acronym, RISEN, and it's like, when you go and prompt, you have to give it the AI a very specific role and very specific instructions, and then make sure that it's by steps, and the execution and the narrowing. You don't have to do all 5 steps, but I mean, and then this is an example of how to do that they share. But I mean, first, you're consulting with 20 plus years of, you're a consultant with 25 years of experience. That's like, what is your role? Be very, very specific. Let's focus on the following persona. Like, I want you to share the outputs in this specific order. Like, as long as you build it very structured, you'll get, great responses. And I think as long as we as customer marketing learn how to use these tools, we can actually help our organizations not only adopt AI faster, but help the organization win against competition. Again, knowing what to add to our products, where are we doing better, where are we doing worse. A lot of things that, again, voice of customer is super important for, and we as marketers, and specifically customer marketers, could actually be the quarterbacks for a lot of this for our organizations, and help the organization do that transition through engaging customers in a smart way and leveraging AI for it. I mean, quickly, just to, for those who don't know Base, so we're and I'll take it into the acquisition, but just to explain, customer marketing platform. We've been around, and Dan was asking a great question. What's the difference between AI native? We're not AI native. We're Base.ai, but we haven't started as AI. We're officially a SaaS company. We're doing the transition now. Many SaaS companies, many technology companies are doing the transition now, from big players like IBM or whatever, Adobe, to, of course, startups. But so we started as a vendor for customer marketing, advocacy, references, lifecycle journeys, and so on. Enterprise oriented. You can see some of our customers, SOC 2 compliant, great reviews on G2 and so on. But now it's basically, we're thinking, okay, AI is changing everything for our customers. It's changing a lot for us as well. And I think it's changing a lot for the customer journey. And the way we think of that, and that would be my segue also to some of these acquisitions, is, okay, for us, AI, there's a data layer, right? We have to bring in, Angela was talking about unstructured data and so on. There's a lot of data from your customers, whether it's bringing in those reviews, and that's just one data point. There's the calls, which is what Laudable does, and that's one of the reasons we got Laudable helps us understand, customer data, customer intent, sentiment, who's happy and can be an advocate, but also, what is their specific use case, and a lot of other things that we couldn't get better. So Laudable helps us really create a foundation around data. So does Three Bears, the company that Yonak founded, because that's a lot about the journey. And Three Bears fall in, and both of Laudable and Three Bear kind of fall into the data and insights. They help us learn more about customers from just much more data. We can track customers' activity within community or LMS and so on, and think about, like, really helping you understand your customer's journey, and also then putting it into some frameworks of insights, like, what does that tell us about their sentiment, their intent, their health score, or we call it an engagement score, because health score is very specific for CS things. And and then activation. So again, this is where we use some of the Three Bears possibilities to activate people in real time. So instead of triggering an email the next day or whatever it is, or putting a note for the CSM to talk to them next month, we can in real time engage that customer inside the community, the product, the LMS, and so on, or trigger an email if we wanted to immediately, based on some of those insights and data in real time. and then track how all this influenced revenue. And again, I think AI is going to just do so much magic in here, and it is exciting. But for us, this is also why we want to double down and do some acquisitions. And Laudable and Three Bears just really felt like the thing, some of the elements that we really want to empower our customers to use. And I'll kind of share some examples, but then we'll move into actually those. So you can use AI, of course, to repurpose content, which is what we're doing now. You have a call or a video, a lot of already has it. Somebody talks on a call with the CSM. Now we can turn that into a use case study, customer story. We have the video recording, so we could use snippet videos. We can create quotes. There's a lot we can do there. We call our campaigns asks. So we can automate and create, we're automating and creating asks and images. AI can help. This is where we're talking about insights, help us, identify customer readiness or maturity for, whether it's a maturity for an upsell or to join your community or to finish onboarding. And like, there's a lot of use cases and so on. And really the way we imagine it, and I'll kind of jump off here, but these, because you're not and Angela can talk more about this, but we want to help you know much more about your customers, who they are, what is their trend in different, and give you some insights through that about what you can do with them, where you need to improve with them, and create more stickiness if you think about with your customers in this age of AI, but also create more insights for your organization. And again, combining the journey data from Three Bears and combining the call data, and these are some examples from Laudable, you now have a really robust data set, right? From unstructured data, turning it to a really robust insight of your customers. We have an example with one of the Laudable customers. They were saying, we asked the Slack bot, and Dan will talk about the Slack bot. We asked the Slack bot, like, can we use this customer for something? And originally it said, we thought we could, but then the Slack bot went through all the calls and it actually came to us and said, you know what? Maybe it's not a good idea to use them right now. And apparently it was right. It took it 3-4 minutes to go through all like the last calls from the last couple of months, but it came back with a different insight that we didn't see. And when we looked at it and then talked to the customer, we realized it was true and it was good that we didn't choose or use that customer because of those insights that we couldn't just gather in any other way. So I'll stop there. And I think kind of, Chia, right, we're diving into you sharing the slides, I believe, right now, and going into the different, use cases and products.
Yes. But I also wanted to give Angela and Yona a chance to kind of share their story as well, their story on Laudable as well as their story on Three Bears. So before I share that, actually, I'd love to throw it to Angela first to kind of give you a quick, give us a quick brief on Laudable, your story and what you want to share with us.
Yeah, I'm going to be really quick because I think a better way to learn about Laudable in action is to hear from Dan, who uses it and has his top power moves. But backstory was with all that was becoming capable or that was becoming possible and the capabilities of AI and what we were seeing with customer marketers spending 2 hours on Friday nights listening to gong calls on 2x speed, we realized that data source was not yet being tapped into and was maybe the richest data source in terms of unstructured data that related to customers, telling you about their current sentiment, what successes they're having, and so forth. And that CSMs are often the bottleneck for customer marketers having to go, send a Slack message or hop on a call. So we started building AI on top of customer data, partnering with Gong, with Chorus by ZoomInfo, with other call intelligence tools to be able to dig in and pull out insights and on-demand content and more. So that was really the backstory with Laudable, and a couple things I can show you very quickly if we want to go to the slides.
Yes, let me share my slides.
The two pieces that I just want to call out, so like getting regular new quotes and signals from the call recordings every single day, calibrated to the things that you care most about, is the first mode of operating with Laudable. And so these are just some redacted signals where you're seeing real quantitative ROI and customer signals around them receiving outcomes from your product or solution. And then the second piece, if you go to the next slide, is Slackbot. And you probably can't read much of this, but the gist is asking Intel or asking the Slackbot for detailed questions, like Gal was saying, around is this customer a good advocate? And really getting the complete story that you otherwise might have to spend days, hours reading through call transcripts, bouncing in Slack to ask different CSMs for data. So there's a lot of intel. Again, I'm gonna let Dan share more, but a lot of intel that you can get from the call recording data that you otherwise would not be able to reasonably in a small amount of time grasp.
I love that. No, it's a great, thanks for sharing with us. I'd love to dive now into Yonat with Three Bears, her story, and now her future with Base. So let me get to the next slide.
Yes. So Three Bears, the background story was that we felt that there is so much real-time behavioral data in customer journeys that is not being used, that we are just waiting for the journey to go off trail and then customers call and complain. And we thought that we could apply that in real time. So we are looking into how we can leverage behavioral signals in the customer journey in real time, so we could intervene in real time to help the customer. We were mainly focused on buyer journeys, so kind of offering real-time help to save customers from dropping off when they get frustrated, when they lose confidence in the flow that they are going through. And with the with joining to Base, we kind of apply this concept into the Base universe, where the idea is that we could still there are so many customer signals, and here I connect to what Angela referred earlier. There are customer signals in unstructured data, there are customer signals in structured data, there are customer signals all over, and the fact that the data is messy and coming from different places shouldn't stop us from using that. We want, the customers don't care that they gave us this information there and that information here. They want us to use all this information to give them the best, to get to the best understanding that we have on customers. And this is what we're doing on the Base universe right now. And you could show the next slide with the first example, or the first use case we were looking at was actually getting understanding of customer engagement and kind of leveraging the insights or the data signals that we get across different platforms. We look at the customer behavior on the Base portal, which is kind of the advocacy portal. And we look at the customer engagement in community. And in the future, we can look at customer engagement in LMS, in the learning systems, or in the support systems, or in the product itself, and gather all this information into one engagement score that actually reflects the engagement, the activity level of customer across different platforms. The first step is actually to show the insights, to understand where the customer, what the customer is doing, but the next step is taking action on that. So kind of go a full circle. If I know that this customer is has shown kind of a decreased engagement and I want to re-engage them, I could first understand that this is what happened, then trigger some kind of campaign to re-engage them, target it to the right audience and measure it, and kind of close a full circle of automation.
Wait, next slide. Did you have a next slide here?
And no, I think I can hand this over to Dan now.
Sounds great. All right, Dan, let's give us the real examples.
Yay. Hello, thank you for the time. You can click to the next one. Nobody wants to see me. So when I started thinking about, like, what are my primary use cases from a customer advocacy, customer marketing, customer-led growth perspective, and kind of connecting that into Laudable, I thought about just kind of the top moves that have helped make me and my team smarter and more efficient in what we're doing. And so these are my top 5. I'm only going to drill into 2 of them in a sec, but one, I feel like Laudable has been a great tool to help basically be a cheat code for customer story automation. So it's helping me to find, craft, and prep stories. That was one of the ones I'm going to go deeper on. We're also able to bulk source and engage champions. Angela talked a bit about you'll never be able to sit and listen to those calls. We've got 2,000 reps, and so there's no way I will ever be able to listen to those, even if I was listening to them at 14x speed. And so having Laudable listen to those calls for me and pull out the ones that are going to be relevant and great champions for me. That is a super helpful tool for me to then build a campaign to go after with a personal contact to them. I also, we talked a little bit about those outcome signals. This is also kind of core to what ZoomInfo does. And so I think I immediately understood the value of an outcome signal. But it's really bringing out that proof that we're always looking for, to sort of capture those quotes, capture those stats, the stories. Maybe they're going to be instantly usable. Maybe those are people who you want to just go engage and build a relationship with. But that's been cool. Also building disruptive battle cards. I'm super competitive, and I love competing. And so for me, this is one of my favorite tools. I'm gonna go a little deeper into this one. And then, like I say, you're gonna find the story that you would never see otherwise. And so sometimes there's a great use case that a customer who may not fit your target default hunting customer, but they happen to mention a use case. Maybe it's a competitive switching use case, or it's a particular product feature that you want to start to bolster and pump up. You can find those, and you would never find them otherwise. A sales rep's not going to surface those organically to you. And so Laudable's helping me to do that. So we'll dive into the first example. And one of my favorite things is competitive sales plays and battle cards. There's Laudable tags competitive mentions, and then you can also identify specific competitors that you want it to pull out. And so as it surfaces these, there's 1,000 different things that you can do. And I would say I haven't even tapped all of the potential here. But in the example, it surfaces these, and you can start to identify, hey, this customer's said this thing about you compared to a competitor. The one down here at Matthew. Maybe that's a great quote, and I want to use that for my international customer base. Let's reach out to Matthew. You can see we also generated a G2 review request for that person, and so maybe they can start to talk about this on G2. So we're really pulling those out. But I think the cooler use that I've got here is taking all of this content in aggregate, combining it in with the ChatGPT or some kind of thematic tool where you're able to sort of pull out what are all the themes that customers are saying to our salespeople, good, bad, or indifferent, about what makes us, like what are the customers saying about us that's positive? What are the customers saying that's maybe negative? And what are the things where are we winning? So then I can go build sales plays, battle cards, defensive postures, winning postures for our sailors. To augment with their battle cards and use actual customer proof and customer voice to support it. So I can do that at scale and in aggregate, which couldn't do otherwise. And this is the most authentic and real way to have our customers share with us what our competitors are teaching them. So that's been super fun. Love it. And that's also using, I think Galt talked about kind of, we use many tools and other tools. This is using multiple tools of AI to get the story that I want. And then my other topic, you can click to, is the cheat code for customer story automation. So this is a highly redacted and summarized version, because what the chatbot delivers is super comprehensive. It's really, really pretty powerful. So what this is just a basic /@Laudable/summary of a particular customer. And it goes through, and it's not just listening to a single call or a single moment in time. It's listening to a library of calls. You can see in this one, I think it sucked in 4 calls that happened with this customer, and combined all of these things to say, hey, yeah, this customer is ready to do advocacy. They're green, and they would likely be willing to engage. So you know the when you should be engaging them. It tells you who your top advocates are. I think this one pulled 3 different people across all different levels and layers in the organization. And it even talks about why they think, or why it thinks it's going to be good. So it's helping me to validate, yeah, I trust that Rob last name is going to be a great advocate for me. It pulls out those pain points, like what are the problems they're trying to solve? So are those topics, it gives me a chance to look before I even reach out to Rob. I can look to see, are these topics that I want to address? Are these things that are important for my go-to-market right now, or maybe down the road? And then what are their primary use cases? So it's really helping me to narrow in what the best stories are and let me focus on just the stories that I want to tell right now. Maybe I want to come back to technographic data later on. And so we can go talk to that. And then it also pulls out some of those outcomes. And so the key for me, I always want to put a number in my stories or in my any kind of customer proof that I'm putting out. And so it surfaces, hey, here's some stories or stats that they've come up with. Are those important for me? And then it even gives us some suggestions on how to get more from the story. And so I've totally loved this. The piece that's been even more cool is the new or updated Slack bot, where now I don't need to use the @summary tag. I can ask it really specific, ask me anything in natural language questions, and it's going to surface super compelling answers. And so I've loved that. And that's the Slack bot unlocks a whole bunch of new ways to automate storytelling.
All right. Sounds like Dan's team is well ahead of the curve in terms of AI usage. And so I am pretty impressed. I will steal some of these ideas and try to stay competitive. I know that we have about 8 minutes left, and so we want to leave some time for Q&A, but I thought it'd be really great maybe to also, perhaps ask Gal, Angela, Yona on maybe some tips, since Dan already shared us, his power moves. If you guys wanted to share your tips on how can other customer marketers or marketers in general leverage AI and stay competitive and use it effectively. But yeah, I'll give it to Gal. Yeah.
Sure, and I'll actually share a little bit of the poll we have. So, I mean, I think can you see my screen in the poll now? Or only I see it?
The poll? No, I can only see your slides.
Oh, how do I do that? Okay. Now you see it?
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, so you can see actually part of the answer to your question is what people have said, right? So, I mean, we already see customer
Right.
marketers using this for, predominantly the two highest ones are, content creation, right? And templates and frameworks, which makes a lot of sense. Again, marketing adopted those early on. A little bit less market research, maybe because it's less of their job, maybe because, they're not using it that much. Coding, of course, not expecting customer marketers to do coding that much. I will tell you the guys that tools like Laudable and Bold, and there's many others, can help you not be a coder and still do fun stuff.
No.
So I mean,
Sorry to pause you. Sorry. We can't see the slides. Sorry, we can't see the poll. Sorry, because
ooh,
I'm the host, I can see it. So I thought everyone else could
okay.
see it. But
I don't know how to do that, frankly. I took a picture of this, so I mean, maybe this will be better.
For me, it's a pop-up. Yeah, I think folks can
Oh.
see it. It's a pop-up if you check your Zoom windows.
okay,
Okay.
good. Sorry about that.
Okay, but anyway, I mean, I think that the overall what the poll tells us is that people are focusing on specific use cases, and I think when we are trying to think about what people can do and use more with AI or how to adopt more, I think one is just read. I don't know the answers myself, but I just I devote 30 minutes a day, an hour a day. Sometimes I don't have that time, maybe an hour 2 days, whatever, but looking on LinkedIn what other people are doing, right? Trying stuff myself. Like I wanted to create something in our product, so I just went ahead and built it myself in Bold. And of course, you don't take that and just put it in the product, but I showed the team what I did there. Now I'm thinking, my kids have this task of taking out the dishes from the dish, and I'm going to build an app because every day I need to remind them whose job it is to take out the dishes. Why? So I'm going to build an app that's going to send them messages and just remind them to take out the dishes. But what I'm saying is, play with play with, on the one hand, play with it, whether it's for your personal life or for your work, and experiment, because it really changes so much so fast. On the other hand, just read. I'm following people who are much more savvy than me and trying to see what they're doing, what they're saying, and how to adopt. I think marketers, like we said, are generalists. They're going to be even more generalists. We have to kind of open our minds and say, okay, we're going to have to deal with more things like market research. Like, yes, we're maybe going to need to do more research, because if we take all the reviews from G2 to try and give management insights from that, we need to be a little bit of a research person to be able to do that in a comprehensive manner together with ChatGPT. So I think that's my tip there. Just, adopt a more generalist mindset and start doing more things with the help of GPT or other tools, and then experiment with your personal life or with your work, because it's going to infuse both ways.
I mean, I'd say embrace the short-term frustration. I think you see people who say, you really have to carve out the time and space for yourself and for your teams to do that, or it's not going to happen. Like full stop. You see a lot of people say, "Oh, I tried this tool and the results were crap. This was like bad results." And there's a mindset shift that we all have to get to, which is you're kind of with ChatGPT going from doer to manager mode. You're directing it, you're prompting it, you're having it adjust, and that changes the nature of the work that you're doing. And for the folks that like can't get across that hump or can't make that shift, it's going to be tough, and we'll fall further behind. Versus if you can make that adjustment and that shift, you can stay on top of how to effectively use AI tools in your work.
I'll talk on what Angela said just a sec. It really doesn't always give the best result. We all know it by now, but it really is, I agree with the frustration thing, because if the expectation is, whether you're a developer expecting, oh, I'm just going to use it and it's going to build the whole product, or whether you're a marketer and I'm just going to give it a prompt, the first prompt, and it's going to give me everything I need. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Not yet, maybe never, I don't know. But again, that's where the A, methodology comes into place, and the more it can be methodological, the better results you get. But B, yes, accepting that it's not always going to work. We said coders at the end only use 35% of their code through that, not 100% or 90%. So it's frustrating. It sometimes takes longer. Shit, it took me longer than if I would have done it myself. Yes, the first time, the second time, the third time, probably not the fourth time, right? So it's part of the learning curve and process. And again, it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to be frustration both on the usage and also, but everybody's using it. So like, why am I not getting the best result? No, not everybody's using it. Not everybody's getting the best result. So like, I mean, it's just being in that very, maybe uncomfortable place, but it is a very fast changing world. Nobody's seen such changes. It's very uncomfortable. And on the other hand, it's kind of embracing, like Angela said, embracing that uncertainty to a point where I just need to keep on listening, learning, experimenting. I'll get there. Some people get there in a week. Some people will get there in a month. Some people get there in 2 quarters. It's fine as long as you're on that journey, I think. That's kind of my thought on that frustration element. Just don't give up.
All right. I know we're only 1 minute left. Yona, did you have a very quick tip for us?
My quick tip is actually to not underestimate the really quick hacks that help you. So you have a list of emails that you need to send to customers, and you send it last week and you're not sure who is there. Just upload those to Excel to whatever ChatGPT you're using and ask him, like, can you clean this up for me? And just create those who didn't receive the email. Those hacks, like, there is no learning curve here, and it's always work, and it's an amazing shortcut. So that's my tip.
All right, absolutely love it. Okay, so I only got one question through this. If you guys have the time, what are some of the top 2 or 3 AI tools that you use today? So Dan already answered. He uses Laudable, ChatGPT, and obviously ZoomInfo Copilot. For the rest of you, do you guys have 1 tool or 2 tools that you guys use on a daily basis?
I mean, ChatGPT, of course. Like, or I play between ChatGPT and Anthropic. I mean, I don't think the models will make a difference in 6 months or 12 months. They're all going to be great. It doesn't matter. But right now, I just play for fun. And then, like I said, I use Bolt or things like that, or Lovable, to try and build things. Not because I'm a builder in that sense, but just to kind of either prove a point for myself or for my team, or just be able to kind of see how it works. But yeah, those are my main things. Yeah, but ChatGPT is so versatile. Like we said, we could use it for emails, we can use it for research, we can use it, so like it's more the use cases versus the tools. And then also we use a video tool to kind of hack that.
Oh gosh, I swear this isn't a plug, but Zapier. I mean, I just launched a Perplexity integration. So I know Matthew Hall mentioned Perplexity. Being able to combine a bunch of these tools and build on them with stitching them together through Zapier, like ChatGPT work automations and workflows, just been really powerful.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, we are over time. So thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the feedback. Everyone loved the content. And so super happy that you guys could, enjoy this really well for a Friday morning. afternoon. But yeah, that is it from us. Thank you so much again. We will send the
Thank
recording
you,
over.
Dan,
Yeah,
Angela,
all our
and
speakers.
Iman for joining. Yeah, and sharing your best practices, your experience, and what you see in this uncertain future.
Very certain, very certain.
you
All
all.
right. Thank you so much again, guys. Have a great one.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.